Director John Carpenter's 1982 horror film The Thing has become a hallmark of the genre, with its legacy steadily growing in stature since its inauspicious debut. Like the grotesque monster at its center, The Thing has slowly infected the mainstream consciousness due to its mastery over a multitude of fears. At its center, Carpenter's movie plays off the idea of bodily terrors, but uses its simple, grotesque idea to reflect societal and relational horrors. Written by Bill Lancaster and based on the 1938 science fiction novella Who Goes There by John W. Campbell Jr., this tense, terrifying piece of sci-fi horror was originally lambasted by many critics at the time of its release as little more than gross-out schlock. Beyond its critical put-downs, The Thing was a box office failure, being just one of the many sci-fi films of 1982 to be washed away in the tide of E.T.'s massive success at the theater. But in the more than 3 decades since, The Thing has been reappraised in both the niche horror community and the mainstream. That's not just because of Carpenter's stellar direction — this is easily the director at the height of his game — or the awesomely gruesome special effects done by Rob Bottin, with an assist on the unforgettable dog creature by Stan Winston. It's because The Thing crafts an inescapable sense of paranoia in its audiences to match the same feeling in its protagonists, ratcheting up the tension to a nearly unbearable degree, which is bolstered by the horrifying nature of the alien menace at the core of the story. Combined with its desolate Antarctic setting, The Thing is at once both jarringly horrifying and utterly engrossing. Set in a remote US outpost, The Thing sees a group of researchers infiltrated by an alien life form that assimilates and imitates other species. The parasitic organism can look like any living creature it consumes, and only reveals itself when there is no other choice, bursting into terrifying displays of body horror at its finest. As the men begin to realize the incredible amount of danger that they, and the world at large, are in, distrust and discord are sown amongst them, along with escalating encounters with the unspeakable horror that is slowly picking them off one by one. What makes the narrative of The Thing work so incredibly well is that it is constantly challenging the audience, forcing them to engage with the clues it provides and second-guess the true identity of each character on screen. Like the protagonists of the film, the audience is forced to constantly unravel the hints of who could be the alien at any given moment, as Carpenter wisely keeps the audience in the dark, much like its hero R.J. MacReady, Kurt Russell, here in his third of 4 fantastic collaborations with the director. Yet even then, Carpenter plants enough seeds for audiences to sometimes question the integrity of their own hero. As more and more victims are overcome by the parasitic life form, it becomes increasingly difficult to keep track of who may or may not be assimilated. And just when you've pinned down who and who isn't the thing, the film wriggles out from under you, surprising you with reveals that never break the rules or what was shown before while still upending expectations. At the same time, the biology and behavior of the mysterious alien is never completely understood, and what information the audience gleans never really exceeds what the characters themselves know. Discoveries like the alien's sensitivity to heat, how its parts act independently of the whole, and its general motivations are only minor glimpses of the whole that lead to more questions. Questions like, do you know you are a thing when one takes you over? Or how much contact do you need in order to be infected? The ungraspable nature of the creature makes it all the more terrifying for the heroes and audiences alike. Carpenter's direction and sense of pacing in conjunction with editor Todd Ramsey may be the finest in the horror auteur's career. It's methodical without feeling boring. Instead, his long takes and still framing often highlight the tension of being trapped in an isolated base with a terrifying creature lurking nearby and ready to attack at any moment. The same goes for the score by Ennio Morricone, who composed one of the few Carpenter film soundtracks to not be created by the director himself. Although Carpenter did have a fair amount of say in the film soundtrack's construction. It's minimal and restrained, but feels like the strange alien hum of some predatory force. The fact that The Thing hit theaters at the heights of the Cold War and on the cusp of the AIDS crisis doesn't seem like mere coincidence. This was a time when fear of the other was at a fever pitch in the United States, with looming threats of both foreign hostilities and unexplained sexually transmitted diseases making people feel unsafe on all sides. These fears that come from within and without make up the inescapable terror of the alien parasite at the center of The Thing. Carpenter keeps these terrors ever present throughout the film, embodied in The Thing, the distrust of each character, the initially unexplained actions of the Norwegian team at the film's beginning, and the film's refusal to provide solid answers at its end. It's easy to see how the fear of the Cold War in 1982, a time when America was at the height of its stalemate with the USSR, is reflected in both the alien creature that invades an American outpost and in the opening scene's conflict with a group of Norwegian men. While Carpenter's film thankfully avoids making the helicopter-flying intruders Russian, their language barrier and the confusing and sudden threat of violence highlights a wariness of the other, which will soon escalate from people of a different nationality to a creature from another planet. It's within that strange creature that we find the central fear of the thing, that of the fear of the other, which comes from outer space but is also present within our very own bodies. While the alien creature's rapid multiplication on a microscopic level, and the frequent use of blood to determine whether a character has been taken over or not can easily be tied to the rise of STDs and the oncoming AIDS crisis, the subgenre of body horror can be applied to the fears of many different generations. This ongoing terror is part of the reason why The Thing feels so fresh and relevant, even when viewed in a different century. As the threats encountered in Carpenter's film move from foreigners to an alien creature to the realization that anyone can be taken over, distrust grows among the group of men who are already on uneasy terms with one another. What hope can be found when you can't completely trust the man next to you? The creeping personalization of the alien threat and paranoia that come along with it changed the film from being an allegory about its time to being one about the timeless fears found in everyday society. As MacReady, Russell puts in one of the great performances of his career. While his character is a helicopter pilot and not the designated leader of the group, his wits and tenacity quickly turn him into one of the few characters mentally and physically prepared to meet the alien onslaught head-on. But he's far from perfect, making human mistakes and acting suspiciously enough to keep others from completely trusting him. However, the actor's charisma and the character's plans of action help keep the thing feeling exciting and compelling, even amidst the nihilistic chaos. While others like Blair descend into complete despair from understanding the true nature of the situation, and some like Windows become weaker from the overwhelming nature of the threat, MacReady acts heroically while still remaining fallible. Yet even MacReady is affected by the overwhelming paranoia caused by the situation. The idea that seemingly normal flesh and bone could hide such a ghoulish, unknowable creature is what makes the body horror found here in Carpenter's seminal work so nightmarish. Normal men overtaken by the thing explode into whirling tornadoes of flesh and tentacles, splitting apart and violating all known rules of how the human body should work. The idea that anyone around you could morph into an inescapable fever dream of death, one that gets inside you and expels you from your own body, leads to immediate and understandable distrust of all others. Perhaps that is why the monster at the climax doesn't quite work as well as the rest of the film, as it is the thing unleashed in full beastly fury. The image of man is completely gone in favor of something massive and abominably huge, thereby turning it into something far less existentially horrifying. But it's only on screen for a few minutes and is followed by an unforgettable ending that flat out refuses to provide a definitive conclusion. In that final conversation between MacReady and Childs, we dive deep into the film's concluding statements on paranoia and sacrifice, ending the film on a haunting note that is hard to shake. While much discussion has been had over the years in an attempt to discern the true nature of both men at the close of The Thing, the point of Carpenter's conclusion is that there is no easy or truly knowable answer.
What do we do?
Why don't we just wait here for a little while? See what happens.
While there is undoubtedly a nihilistic streak to Carpenter's film, there's still hope to be found in the ways its characters fight against unyielding horror. Likewise, The Thing can simultaneously drip with dread from its opening moments and still be filled with great fun thrills. Moments like the fear-drenched blood test both terrify and exhilarate.
We'll do you last.
That balance keeps The Thing working on multiple levels at once, for viewers who are looking to be entertained, challenged, or both. The best offerings in the horror genre force the audience to confront fear, indulge in it, and conquer it, even if they are not completely aware of the process at the time. From primordial terrors to modern anxieties, Carpenter's The Thing taps into these various levels of horror, making it a timeless story whose ever-applicable fears have turned it into one of the genre's most consistently potent films.